What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful night or day. Today's a pretty good day because we do have a list of new changes that happened yesterday for Amazon's new world, and it did fix quite a bit about what was wrong with the game in terms of bugs and exploits. But today I just wanted to have another discussion, finally talk about what I was hinting at in the previous videos when it came to the invasion system and how I think that it could have been much more than it actually ended up being. And I just want to reiterate that when we talk about these kinds of things, when we criticize the game in different ways, like I always have, really, I've always been able to point out problems and give my opinion, and it's always been a thing. Like if I saw something that I didn't like, I always talked about it. A lot of times we would do it in these patch note videos, and we would just occasionally do the discussion videos, things like that. But if you have an issue, they want you to make that clear. I know that because I've done Q&As with them before, and we've talked about that kind of thing. They don't want people to be okay with the systems if they don't feel like they actually work. And when I talk about these kinds of things, they're just my opinion. If you're okay with the systems, that's perfectly fine. But I just want to give my take about what I was talking about when I said that feature-wise, I don't like where New World seems to be going, and how I've for a long time not liked certain aspects about the features of the game. And we're going to start with the invasion system today. So for the invasion system, it came out last year in the alpha. It was around August 19th, I believe, is when the system had first debuted. And the system itself, what I expected from it was I expected it to be something more open world based. Because when I first heard the word invasion, and keep in mind there was articles and stuff like that coming out before the game actually implemented the invasion system, so we got a little bit of a taste of what the invasion system was before it was actually a thing. And what I started thinking about was something more open-ended, like maybe a dynamic event or something of that nature. One of the most prominent examples that I used, which I did include in a forum thread that I created right after I first tested out the invasion with a bunch of the other alpha testers, is I was hoping for something, or kind of wishing that it had a similar feel to a sequence in a game called Dragon Age Origins. If you haven't played it, it's one of the old school, really popular RPGs. One of my favorites of all times, actually. And there's a portion of that game that takes place in a place called Ostagar, and there's a siege of Ostagar that happens during that game. And what it is essentially is a bunch of darkspawn that are coming to hit these humans super hard, and they have to muster a defense in order to defend this fortress. A very key point in their defenses that they need to make sure that they hold. So when I think of invasions, I would think, and lore-wise, this is what I would think an invasion is supposed to be. Corrupted are based in Shattered Mountain, Great Cleave. We know that they come from Shattered Mountain. We don't know exactly how they were created, like, exactly, but we know that's the basic gist of it. So what I think could have been done, even though it might have been harder to do, but I think would have been amazing, and might have also changed some things in terms of like how New World is perceived, and might have given people hope for something more, is if the invasion took place, you saw, let's say, like a blob on the map. So you saw an actual blob that was moving slowly but surely down to whatever settlement it was targeted at. And then let's say you could go to that blob and then actually see the corrupted marching like on their own, like this huge wave of corrupted, and you could either start attacking them like out in the open world, potentially doing missions out in the open world that maybe, like, let's say, if we're still using the instance thing, since right now the invasions are instanced, let's say that periodically throughout the build up to the invasion, you could actually take missions to sabotage the invasion as it goes. And this would take place in like an instanced area where you could fight maybe a contingent, or like a portion of the corrupted from that actual army. And then it weakens the corrupted over time, or maybe gives you bonuses as you go along, what you can use in the actual invasion itself, something like that. And then maybe when it actually happens, it takes place inside the actual town itself in the open world, or in the middle of the field. I think that right now, New World itself is limited in a lot of ways, and I think that also ties into the invasion system as well, that it feels limited. For example, banking on some of the changes that I talked about previously that I had an issue with, how they changed the loot drop system to where if you have more than one party, or let's say you have a bunch of people that aren't in a party, what happens is that if you have more than 5 people in one party, or a bunch of people that aren't in the party, You start fighting unique mobs, for example, and you're going to have a lesser chance of having loot down to a non-zero minimum. So it lowers your chance of getting loot at all. And what I think about this change is that it kind of goes against what I think really makes New World shine. Because for me, the open world is where I think the game really does shine. And I think a big part of MMOs, but also a big part of the potential of New World, is being able to create content that you can do with large groups of people alongside, it's fine to have pieces of content that you can do with just small groups. But, I think part of what made MMOs really fun in the first place was having those big events like world events, dynamic events, world bosses, stuff like that you could do with hundreds of people. The massively multiplayer in MMO, that's there for a reason. And when I think of invasions, I just think it's really limited how we only have, 50 people that we can go in with, and it just takes place in the same area as the territory wars do, just that fortress itself, and it's just tower defense mode. And it's just 8 waves of the corrupted coming at you. The void destroyers are pretty cool, I will say. I love those guys a lot, but it's basically just a tower defense. And I think it could have been so much more. And also, I feel that it goes against what they were trying to do in the first place, because how when you're signing up for an invasion, or when everybody gets selected, it's supposed to be where the company can only reserve the first 10 people, and then everybody else is randomly selected, right? Well, since launch, and even before then, it's been a thing where people have just been able to kick people out of the roster over and over until they got the proper setup that they wanted from the sign up. So they could, just kick everybody that was signed up, or, in the roster until they got all their guildies in there, or, everybody that they actually wanted anyway. So what this does is it doesn't go with what they were going for. Because the reason they did that whole reserving 10, the rest are random thing, is because they wanted people to be able to participate in this piece of content. And, even though it's level 50 plus, you have to get a little bit up there before you can even get into it. That system itself seems to promote that, but it's easily bypassed. And I don't know if this is still a thing. I haven't been able to, I've been getting some issues with trying to sign up and view the roster of invasions today. So I haven't been able to actually see if that's still a thing or not. And I haven't been able to ask anybody yet. But if it is though, I just feel like it goes against what they were initially trying to do anyway. The biggest thing for me with the invasions is I feel like if we didn't have to do these, like if there weren't penalties tied to these, if there weren't rewards tied to these, would people still do these invasions long term and still enjoy them? I don't think they would. I feel like invasions are pretty much done out of necessity, not out of fun factor. And I think that's the problem. Because right now, losing an invasion, it's pretty hard. It's pretty harsh. So, you just have to do them no matter what. Even if you, don't like them, it's boohoo, whatever, you got to do it. I think if they were to, over time, since right now I don't think it's going to be possible anytime soon, like anytime in the next couple months, but I think over time, if they were to rework the invasion system, potentially to be more open worlded, or changed up where the invasion took place and how many people were able to sign up for the invasion, like made it 100 people or 150 people, I think that'd be awesome. This game is called New World. It's not called New Expedition. I think that the game itself needs to have more open-ended content, or more content in general that you can do with a lot more people. Like, have you noticed that whenever you're trying to do stuff with your guild or anything like that, other than open world PvP, which might not last very long sometimes, there's not a whole lot that you can really do with a large group of people. It doesn't, I've always felt like it doesn't really live up to the potential that New World has. Like what we have right now, it doesn't. And Amazon is not like some small indie company. They've shown us before, like during the alphas for instance, that they can make changes like this. They can make big changes like this, no problem. They were killing it after the preview. And when Crucible got shut down and they had a bunch of developers or whatever switched over to the Amazon New World team, they were pushing out content in those patches like nobody's business. New weapons every single month, and all that stuff. It was awesome. And we just haven't seen that much coming from them since then. And a lot of it, I think it has to do with a lot of these issues that have been popping up. The game itself, it needs to start getting back on track with adding more. And I think if it doesn't within the next couple months, it might be in real trouble. Now, I'm not saying that the game by any means is like in danger of dying. I think that the game itself has, either way, is going to have a long and healthy lifespan. I do hope that the game itself will flourish. You know, even though I still stand true to what I've said in the previous videos, I still think that the game itself has a lot of potential. There's so much that they can do there. Naval systems, dynamic events, you name it, like there's a lot. And we're going to talk more about that over the next couple of videos as well. Other things that I think might need to get changed up again or need to get improved or added potentially. And I think the next one is going to be the faction missions, because there's a lot of thoughts that I have about that as well. But thank you guys so much for watching for now. Hope you have a wonderful night or day. I'll catch you on the next one.